and welcome to Healthy Talks. I am your host, Julie, and today we are with the amazingly talented, wonderful Sue-Lee, who is a counselor here in Cape Town, South Africa. Hi, Sue, how are you?
Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much also for taking time off your busy schedule to talk with us today. We hope that our listeners do get something out of this and just to be more aware about the counseling and what it all entails and what you do.
Awesome.
So, seeing with telehealth, it's been a significant rise in popularity, especially in mental health services. What, in your experience, are the primary benefits of telehealth for clients seeking mental health support?
There has definitely been a rise just in online work alone since the whole big COVID-19 pandemic.
Mm,
Um, in that time frame, we were all forced to use these online platforms, and we were able to see that it can work. And if that is the only option available, then that's what we kind of have to do. And I think that really opened the world up in terms of mental health for counseling purposes. Some of the benefits that it's given us is accessibility. So we are now more than ever able to contact specialists that aren't even in our province. Like, for example, I see so many clients that are also in Joburg, and there's no boundaries. I don't only have to see people in Cape
mm,
Town. So that's definitely a benefit. It's also a benefit in terms of accessibility for people that have mobility issues, if they don't have reliable transport. So that in itself makes it not only accessible but convenient at the same time. And I mean, I'm sitting at home now having this interview with you. It's cold outside. Like, what more could I want? So why would you not want to
exactly.
do online counseling in the comfort of your own home? Um, Flexibility in terms of scheduling is another massive win for online counseling. So I actually work until 7 p.m. at night, but the 5 p.m. and the 6 p.m. slots are only for online counseling. And
Okay.
then on a Saturday, I work from 8 until 12, also only for online counseling. So this allows people that have like busy work schedules or school schedules to still be able to access mental health care regardless of, what they've got going on in their lives.
No, definitely. And how does telehealth compare to traditional in-person counseling in terms of effectiveness and outcomes, particularly for clients dealing with anxiety or depression?
So again, I'm going to have to bring the pandemic in. This allowed us to see that there are different treatment options that are available. However, I must make like a note, and I even have this in all of my consent forms, is that online counseling is not for everyone. So
Mm,
if someone is in crisis or they're presenting with massive suicidal ideation or things like self-harm, online counseling is not going to help them. You need more of a hands-on approach. So that's where in-person counseling will come in. And I think if that can't happen, then for distance reasons, then I would usually refer those clients. So that is more for people that are in crisis. However, if we're just talking like general depression and anxiety symptoms, there's been lots of research done in this area.
mm.
And there isn't much of a massive difference. The point is that they both yield very positive results. It's very similar to each other, and they can both be beneficial, and they both have their place depending on what the person prefers at the time and what's going to help them best.
Definitely. And could you share some insights into the challenges clients might face when transitioning from in-person to online therapy? And how do you specifically address these challenges in your practice?
Definitely technical difficulties. I think that is a
Yeah.
big one. I don't want to say the big L word, but I'm going to have to with load shedding in our country. It's always about working around the load shedding schedule. So that is a massive one. A lot of people also don't have access to reliable internet or a reliable device. And then a lot of the older generation don't always have the confidence or the skills to work with online platforms like Zoom and,
Mm,
Microsoft Teams. So that can be quite challenging. So ways that we can work around this is a supervisor actually once told me I'm like the queen of backup. I have a backup for a backup for a backup. So I have an inverter at home for Wi-Fi, and if that bombs out, I have this little mobile, little dongle thing that I plug in to my computer, which will then also give me Wi-Fi. So that's how I combat that. Um, in terms of technical difficulties with skills and confidence, I think having like a pre-session tech check, explaining to
Mm,
your clients how this platform works, or even creating like a PDF to say, like this button is how you turn your microphone on, this is how you turn your camera on, just so that they have a bit more confidence in terms of that. Something else, definitely privacy. I've
yes.
noticed a lot with kids that I counsel that the eyes are always like at the door, making sure that no one is peeping in on them or listening to them. That's challenging, not just for me, but for them because they can't speak freely. And
Mm,
I can't help them if I don't know what's truly going on in the background. Um, Ways that I really address them and make them feel comfortable is encouraging have a private space, have a space where you can talk, put earphones in if you need to. And a way that I normally make my clients feel safe is, as you can see, I have my AirPods in. So even though I'm alone at home and no one's going to hear this conversation, there's still this
mm,
extra reassurance, if my volume's loud, my neighbor won't be able
yes.
to hear you through the walls. Another massive, massive important thing that is an adjustment for us is, as in the mental health care practitioner, is nonverbal cues. So I love it when people assume that my job is only about talking to people. And they make it sound so easy. It's really not. There's a lot more that goes into it. It's looking at nonverbal cues, looking at body language, and that's absent in the online space. I mean, yeah, you can only see my shoulders and
Mm,
my head, and my background is blurred. So that all goes away, and it makes it really hard. So I'm just making up a case right now. If I have a client that's prone to depressive episodes and they've been doing well for a while in the in-person space,
yes.
they come in one day and I smell like a foul body odor. I see that the hygiene isn't there. That can
Yes.
indicate to me non-verbally that they might have slipped back into like a major depressive episode. So those are things that just aren't there. What I normally do for online is make sure that my active listening skills are on point, ask a lot of clarifying questions, making sure that I know what's going on. And if the background isn't blurred, looking at the space. Is it tidy? Is it
Mm,
neat? Are they lying down? Are they slumped? Are they in their PJs every time they see me at, let's say it's 1 o'clock and they're still in their PJs? These could all be signs. So working with what you can instead
yes,
of what you don't
definitely.
have. Yeah,
And just heightening your other skills, like you say, like you're looking at the background, you want your listening skills because you can't see those nonverbal cues behind the screen.
precisely. Yeah.
And your website mentions various psychoeducational workshops. How do these workshops complement individual counseling sessions, and what specific benefits do they offer to participants?
So I think workshops, if you're going to combine it with your traditional counseling, it's really a way of mastering the skills that you have already worked on in your counseling. So if you're looking at the person is really stressed, and you can discuss a little bit about stress management, but when you also add a workshop into it and give specific skills and techniques, it really is like an add-on. It's an extra layer. So that is how it really then benefits rather than just having counseling alone. Something that I love about groups, it's like it's so different to just normal counseling, is the community that gets built. I
Oh,
mean,
yes.
it's so easy for someone to come to me and say, I'm going through a breakup, I'm so sad. I'm not going through a breakup right now. I can understand your sadness, but I'm
Mm,
not experiencing those emotions. So put them in a group with a bunch of people that are going through a breakup, and they feel like they are not the only person in the world. They're not alone. They are people that fully understand and grasp those emotions. And I think that's where change really starts happening, is just feeling not so alone.
yes. And with the ongoing shift towards digital healthcare solutions, what do you foresee as the future trends or advancement in online counseling practices?
Honestly, AI. It has been life changing. I think the day that I found out about ChatGPT, my whole life changed for the better. Um, but it's it's such a trend now, and I think it's not going to take over counseling. It's not going to take over my job, but it's something that we can look at. Not too long ago, it was like a few months ago, I actually watched this program on Netflix. It's called The Circle, and they had a AI bot pretending to be a
Yes.
human, and this guy was like cracking jokes and being able to form these connections. And obviously, as a counselor, I'm going to take a counseling spin on like everything in my
Yes.
life. So I was like, okay, well, let me go onto ChatGPT and like talk to this bot
Mhm.
and see like what it can come up with. And they very recently also released like the voice. So it's an actual voice that speaks back with you.
Yes.
And I made up some random scenario, and did this thing not like make me actually reflect and question a lot of things? It gave me some solid advice. And I was like, you know what? This could be an option. If people don't have accessibility or the money to talk to a counselor, why not make a friend with ChatGPT? Um, in saying that, I don't believe that
It
it's going to take
is.
over the world. I don't think it's going to completely eradicate my job, but it's a trend. It's something that is evolving. And I think it's something that, instead of being scared of, can be used to help us instead.
Can be a tool instead of a threat.
Enjoying this episode? Ever thought of starting your own podcast? Podup.com is your go to. They've got everything you need to run a pro show, including 35 or more AI powered tools for success. Sign up today for a free starter account and get 15% off with the code HealthETalks15. The code is HealthETalks15. Plus, check out podallies.com for a done for you podcasting experience, complete with website, social media, and editing. Start now and let's launch your podcast together.
Yeah, 100%.
And your workshops on anxiety awareness and coping strategies sounds particularly relevant today. Could you outline practical techniques participants can use to manage anxiety daily?
So I think what I normally tell my clients is don't overthink it. There's so much online. If you had to go Google coping strategies,
Mm,
journaling will come up and breathing techniques will come up. And yes, they do work, but it's not for everyone. Everyone is so different. And when I like to look at a coping strategy, I wanted to add to my day. I wanted to fit in with my schedule. It shouldn't be an extra chore. I would hate for my clients at the end of the day lying in bed and be like, oh, I forgot, I still need to go and journal. That's a
mm,
chore now. It's not a coping strategy. So breaking it down. If singing in the car on your way to work to the best soundtrack, if that's what's going to put you in a better mood and that calms you down, then do that. You have to drive to work anyway, so why not incorporate something while
yes.
driving? Having a nice, good rusk in the morning with a good cup of coffee and just reflecting on your day, that too can be a coping strategy. Um, so that's really just like dumbing it down quite a lot if people don't have massive capacity. But also, if we're going to look at other things, physical exercise, again, don't overthink it. It's not about going to the gym and running like 10Ks a day.
Mm,
If you want to walk laps around your house from the lounge to the kitchen to the bathroom to the bedroom and do it over and over again, it's still exercise. You're still
yes.
doing something. Um, Getting enough rest, getting enough, fruit and veg, having at least one fruit a day, having veg 2 to 3 times a week. Nutrition really does boost confidence, and it's
Mm,
good for us. Spending time with friends and family. And then most importantly, if you are really struggling, reaching out to a support group. There's free ones, there's ones that are quite cheap, and then counseling as well, looking for a psychologist or a counselor that you feel like could help you.
definitely. Like AI is like you said, AI is a strong one, and just going onto the internet, looking what works for you and incorporating that into your daily routine is helpful as it is.
Yeah.
And self-care and well-being are also increasing emphasis in mental health. How do you integrate these concepts in both your counseling sessions and workshops?
So what I like to do is, if a client is now really struggling with self-care and well-being, we'll assess where are they at? What are they currently doing? What are they currently struggling? Work collaboratively by setting some goals, things that they feel like they could do to improve their self-care. And then going back after a while, seeing, okay, what is the improvement? What can we work on? It's a trial and error thing. So doing things like that, definitely also if we're going to look at the workshop space and then the counseling space combined, is as a counselor, psychoeducation is a massive part of my job. So making people aware of different concepts, teaching them about, what is self-care? What does
Mm.
self-care look like to you? What can we do to increase this? So, teaching techniques, exposing them to different strategies. So I would definitely say that. And then I also talk a lot about burnout on my social media because not too long ago, about a couple years ago, I had a really bad experience with burnout where I actually got very sick. I was so exhausted.
Mm.
And ever since then, I was like, I never want to feel like this again. This is the worst feeling. I want to avoid it at all costs. And that's why I'm such a big advocate for incorporating self-care and looking at our well-being, looking how we can rest and recoup so that we can avoid burnout essentially.
Yes. And an interesting topic that I saw on your website is adolescent diabetes treatment adherence. What inspired you to include this specific area in your practice, and what are some of the outcomes you've observed from these workshops?
When I was doing my degree, we had to be placed at what is known as your practicum site. So this is where you complete your practical hours, get experience of on the job, it's basically on the job learning. And I was placed at a center called the Adolescent Center of Excellence. So this is in Rondebosch in Cape Town. And what the center is, essentially, if we're looking at long-term health conditions in adolescents, what happens is when they're children, they go to Red Cross Hospital, and that is only for kids. And when they, I want to say like graduate Red
Yes.
Cross, they go to Groote Hospital, so that's for the adults. But there was a missing gap for adolescents in all of this. It was either like kid and then adult, and that is why Groote then founded the Adolescent Center of Excellence. Now, the youth hub is the counseling department of the center, and that is where I was placed. And here I worked a lot with diabetes teenagers where they were like very recently diagnosed or they've had the diagnosis for a while. And I started noticing quite a big trend in terms of like how it affects their mood, their
Mm.
relationships, their physical health in terms of they can't just go out and play sports. They have to test their sugar before, during, and after.
Yes.
Um, Relationship with food is another big one because diabetes is basically it's all about food. So if you in your childhood, if you can remember like going to a birthday party or sleepovers, that was like the best part.
Oh,
That now
yes.
becomes the worst part for them because it's like, okay, well, I mean, what do you normally do at a sleepover? Maybe your friends' parents want to order pizza. Now, a lot of these kids can't go for seconds. They can only have like one or two slices. So just working on that relationship with food for them, saying that it's not that you can't have it, you just have to be moderate. And I set up a support group for these adolescents. And again, as I said earlier, just allowing them to have the connection and being like, I'm not the only teenager with
Mm.
diabetes. Allowing them to, instead of just accepting it and move on, adjust. It's all about adjusting. And also allowing them to kind of grieve a life that they had before because they were healthy one day and then they woke up another day and their norm life was gone. So really just looking at how it has affected their mood and going forward. And they were able to get a lot of confidence from this. They found connection. They learned about diabetes and the effects that it has on them. So just again, the education part. Um, so that group was very, very successful. And
Yes.
it is in talks that a new one is on the horizon soon. So, if people want to take a look at my social media and keep up with that, that would be awesome. And if there are any diabetic adolescents in and around Cape Town, to, yeah, just take a look and reach out if they are interested in joining the group, because I think it would be really, really beneficial.
Yeah, I think a lot of people haven't thought about it in that way. Like adults, as adults, we learn how to deal with if we are sick or we have some sort of new ailment that we need to treat. Whereas a child or a teenager, you don't have that discipline to do it. So it's very interesting to hear that and also not to like think about it on that different level, not just adults having diabetes, but what about kids when they go to sleepovers, like you said, or when they go and play sports, it's all those responsibilities that they need to do, whereas adult you're used to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think not only they're already facing puberty, which is already so
Oh
hard, and
gosh.
now adding diabetes in the mix, you can imagine it really just escalates those already difficult problems and wanting to fit in with your peers, and you can't. So it just really complicates teenage years even more.
I can imagine. And for my last question, for counselors considering integrating telehealth into their practice, whether it's new counselors or a bit of older generation, what advice would you give them based on your experience so far?
I would definitely say have reliable internet, have a reliable device that they can use, make sure that their clients are comfortable with using these devices, having a good quality webcam, because there's nothing worse than trying to conduct a session and like you can't even see each other. Um, so that I would definitely say privacy, make sure that you have a private room where you can close the door, where that your clients can see that they are safe. It's all about safety at the end of the day. Can you create a safe space for your client, regardless of whether it's online or in person?
Mm,
Um, some other things, engagement techniques. I just thought of that. So when you do activities in person, like it's easy, like your client can write. However, online, that kind of is a lot more difficult. So what I normally do is I have fillable PDFs, and then I share
mm.
my screen. Will fill out or draw on the activity, whatever it requires us to do on my side. Then I send them a copy, and a copy goes in their folder. So I don't really allow the online space to like inhibit me. I can still continue doing what I would normally do. And as I said earlier, very, very vital for the practitioner, just pay attention to the nonverbal cues as much as you possibly can.
Mm,
Work on your active listening, ask your clarifying questions, and just, yeah, just try and be there for them, regardless of whether it's like very hands-on in person compared to when it's online.
that's great. Well, Sue, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with us. And I really do hope that someone who's listened to this podcast considers doing online counseling if they don't have the means to go in-person counseling. Also, that interesting topic, like I said, about adolescent diabetic health. I I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you so, so much, Julie. And thank you for just allowing me the opportunity to come on here and talk to you and allow people just to learn more about what it is and how they can reach out for help.
Only a pleasure. And to all our listeners out there, remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode of Healthy Talks.